What is going on, guys? Kenpachi Yu-Gi-Oh! Coming at you with a deck profile. Haven't done one of these in a while, especially not for the standard format, but I've been playing with this deck online for a while, and I had my first in-person tournament yesterday. Online, I've been having better results. I don't remember the exact amount, but I think I'm about 15 wins and 3 losses in Dueling Book rated, for what that's worth. A lot more in unrated for practice purposes. I play in unrated before I go on the rated ladder. But this is 60 card Thunder Chaos Bystial. I'm going to break the deck down into a couple of different sections. The first section I'm going to go over is the Bystials themselves. 3 Bystial Lubellion. This particular deck wants to search them as much as you can because you have 60 cards, and you can effectively use all 3 copies in one duel if it comes to it. 3 Magnamut. This card's limited in the OCG for a good reason. It searches any dragon except for himself during the end phase of the turn in which he's summoned. He's level 6, he's dark, and he has the standard Bystial effect of target a light or dark in the graveyard, banish it, and special summon this. And if your opponent controls a monster, that effect is a quick effect. We have 3 Druid Swarm. Same standard Bystial effect that I just explained, and if he goes from the field to the graveyard, you target one of your opponent's special summon monsters, and it gets sent to the graveyard. So it doesn't get around targeting protection, but it does get around destruction protection. And it's whenever he's sent to the graveyard. So you can use him for a link summon, from the field to the graveyard. So it can be for a link summon, destroyed by battle, destroyed by card effect, whatever. And I'm gonna move these guys over a little bit. I play 3 Serenir in the main. Usually decks either just don't play this guy or play 1. But his effect to mill a Bystial or branded card when he's sent to the graveyard in any way, including Foolish Burial or detaches a material, is very good in this deck because you can put Lubellion in the graveyard if you have all your copies banished, or your Branded Regained in the graveyard if you have Beast active. Which those are the last cards that round out the Bystial engine. Regained, whenever a card is banished, you can target one of them, put it on the bottom of the deck, and if you do, draw a card. And then if your opponent summons a monster, you get to summon any of the level 6 Bystials for free from your graveyard once per turn. And Branded Beast is, if you control a Bystial, you contribute any dragon, target a card in the field, and destroy it. So, and also during the end phase, if you have Regain in your graveyard, you can activate it from your graveyard. And Bystials being effectively DD Crows with bonus effects is really helpful against a lot of the meta strategies, such as Tear Lament. Other Bystial decks, you can snipe their targets. It's good against Labyrinth for taking out their monsters from the graveyard. Moving on to the next part of the deck, it's called Thunder Dragon for a reason. There's a bunch of Thunder Dragons in here. Starting with 3 of the OG, discard it, search for up to 2. Sometimes you want to search 1 for 2. Sometimes you want to do 1 for 1 for 1 to put lights in your graveyard. It's a very versatile card, and it's a generic +1 in a era of Yu-Gi-Oh! Where those are rare. I play 3 Dragon Matrix. This is a card that when it goes from field to grave or from anywhere to banished, you search another copy of itself. You can also use the quick effect to boost a Thunder monster's attack by 500 points. This being a quick effect that you can activate in the damage step helps you a lot with Thunder Dragon Titan plays, which I'll explain when I get to the extra deck. I play 3 Dragon Dark. He can quick effect search for another copy of himself from the deck, and if he goes from field to grave or anywhere to banished, he searches for any Thunder Dragon card, excuse me, including spells or traps, which is very useful. Slide to the left. I play 2 Thunder Dragon Roar. When he's banished, you summon any Thunder Dragon from the deck and in defense mode, and then during the end phase, that gets bounced to your hand. And he can discard himself to add one of your banished or graveyard Thunder Dragons to your hand. So he's very versatile. I am considering putting this up to 3 just because of how much you want to see it, but there's a lot of ways to get him in the graveyard, as you'll see in this deck. One Dragon Hawk. Dragon Hawk, when it's banished, you get to put cards from your hand back into your deck and draw that many, and you can discard it to special summon a Thunder Dragon that's banished or in the graveyard except himself. So he's also level 6. That matters for making Beatrice. And then 2 Thunder Dragon fusions. You can perform a fusion of a Thunder monster using your banished, graveyard, and field. And any turn except for the turn it was sent to the graveyard, you can banish it to Rhoda any Thunder monster. Not even just Thunder Dragons, any Thunder. So that's very good for the deck. The next section coming up is going to be about the Chaos part of the deck. Basically, why you want to run a bunch of Light and Darks in a time where you and your opponent have a crap load of Bystials. Well, that is because Chaos Dragon Legionnaire is single-handedly worth that process. He's summoned by banishing lights and or darks from the graveyard, and depending on which of those, you can apply a different effect. If it's 3 lights, you get to special summon a monster from your graveyard. If it's lights and darks, you get to destroy up to 2 cards on the field without targeting. And if it's all darks, you get to rip a card from your opponent's hand back into their deck. It is also a level 8 dragon with 3,000 attack and 0 defense. Those stats matter, and he's dark. We play the Foolish Boys, as I call them, Dark Grepher and Armageddon Knight. Armageddon Knight on summon mills a dark. Grepher can discard a level 5 or higher to special summon himself, and you can once per turn discard a dark to mill a dark from your deck. Level 4 warriors, we also do run Rhoda, as you'll see later in the deck, but these guys just get the deck going. Light and dark baby Chaos Dragons. Each of them search each other when they go from field to graveyard, and they special summon by banishing their opposite attribute. So he banishes dark, he banishes light to summon. A lot of the deck is about recurring these as much as you can. Chaos Emperor, the Dragon of Armageddon, or as I will call him, Chaos Pendulum. He is also a level 8 dragon with 3,000 attack and 2,500 defense, and he's dark. The Pendulum effect, you pay 1,000, target a banished dragon, and add it back to your hand, and then he destroys himself, so he goes to extra deck face up. And then from the extra deck, you can banish a light and a dark to special summon him, pay half your life points, send your stuff to the graveyard, except for the EMZ, and then send cards that your opponent controls up to that many, and they take 300 per card that hits the graveyard that way. And he can only, if he is on the field and would leave, he goes to the bottom of the deck. And rounding out the Chaos package is the Chaos Creator. He is a Thunder monster, which makes him searchable by certain effects in this deck. Also, he's searchable by Chaos Space. You summon him by banishing Light and a Dark, and you can target 3 banished Light or Darks. Any 3 banished monsters with different names. You summon one of them and put the other 2 back in the deck. So this is also a source of recursion. He's also got 3,000 defense, which is kind of thick, not going to lie. I'm going to round out the monsters in the deck that don't really fall into any of those categories. 3-Dimension Shifter. Konami has made it official. Players are not allowed to have a graveyard, so I am abiding by that policy by making sure that neither my opponent or I can have a graveyard. If you start with Shifter and certain cards, you can just absolutely go off with the Thunder half of the deck. And this card is mandatory. If you can run it, run it. 3 Batteryman Solar. This guy does a lot for the deck. On normal summon, he mills a Thunder from deck to grave. So if you have Shifter active, you just get to activate one of the effects that you want. If a Thunder monster is summoned, you summon a token. So he helps extend into link plays. And his other effect doesn't matter that much. You get to copy a Batteryman's effect, but he's the only Batteryman in the deck. The next one is 2 Nemesis Corridor. It is a thunder monster with the effect that you can target one of your banished monsters, except himself, special summon him, and put that monster back in the deck. It is a level 4 monster, it is a thunder, it is a wind, and it has 1900 attack. All of these stats matter for different reasons. You can special summon it against birds. It's a thunder monster that activates in hand, so you can trigger Titan on your turn. It puts a level 4 on the board, so you can go into Abyss Dweller. That's the only rank 4 in the extra deck. And it is a searchable thunder monster with Thunder Dragon Fusion if you need it to put something back or to get another level 4 on board. And last for the monsters, one Starleash Seifert. The only effect you care about with this is you can banish it from the grave to target a level 8 Dark Dragon and put it back in your hand. He can also discard himself and a dragon to search for a dragon of those combined levels, but you're never going to use that effect in this deck. But he is also a level 4, and he's a light dragon. Sometimes those stats matter. And the last cards to add it up to 60 are 3 main deck skill drains. There are a lot of decks that struggle against a skill drain that has resolved on the board. Sword Soul, a lot of their effects don't go off unless they can bounce the skill drain. Goaty, aka Fish, most of their stuff doesn't do anything under a skill drain. As long as you get this out before they can destroy it or pop it, negate it, etc. Very good generic going first card. For the next part, I'm going to round out the spells. 3 Allure of Darkness. Allure into Dragon Roar is one of the best starts that you can have, or into Dragon Dark as well. With 60 cards, you need to be able to draw as many of them or search as many of them as you can. So Allure helps us establish that game plan. 3 Melody of Awakening Dragon. You discard a card and add 2 dragons with 3,000 or more attack and 2,500 or less defense. So that means your 2 Chaos Legionnaires and your 1 Chaos Pendulum are searchable at any given time as long as you have one of these. And you can discard any card, so if you open up anything that you want in the graveyard or anything that's dead at the time, you can discard it to turn it into Legionnaire and or Pendulum. And sometimes just adding Legionnaire is good enough. 3 Chaos Space. This card is the glue that holds the deck together. You can discard a light or dark, add a monster that can't be normal summoned of the opposite attribute. So if you discard a light, you add a dark, etc. And you could banish it from grave to target a light or dark that can't be normal summoned or set, put it back on the bottom of the deck and draw a card. Each of those effects is once per turn, but this deck gets the Baby Dragon engine going. It recovers your boss monsters late game if you have more than one in the graveyard and you need something to use it for. That's what it's for. And these are the infamous one-ofs: Foolish Burial, Gold Stark, Rhoda. Rhoda searches any warrior. This is why they call search effects Rhoda. Gold Stark, banish any monster from the deck, any card from the deck, and you get it back to your hand in 2 turns. The hidden text on this card is activate any Thunder Dragon effect that you want, because it banishes. Foolish Burial is Foolish Burial. I should not have to explain that one, but it is send a monster from your deck to the graveyard. We're going to move over to the extra deck now. 1 Thunder Dragon Titan. This is your target for summoning off a Thunder Dragon Fusion. If he would be destroyed, you can banish 2 cards from the graveyard. And also, if you activate a Thunder Monster's effect, even during the damage step from your hand, he can destroy a card on the field. Doesn't target. 32 in the front and the back. This is a very scary monster. He's one of the primary reasons we'll never get Colossus back, other than Colossus just, being a huge piece of crap anyway. Abyss Dweller, the only rank 4 in the deck. More or less, again, this is part of Konami's no graveyard strategy. Tier Laments should not exist, and Abyss Dweller helps keep them in check because they do. Beatrice, another card, Lava Ball Chain's okay as long as it's a rank 6, I guess. And because it's a rank 6, you can make it so that you can do it on your opponent's turn too. That's fair, right? Ignore the part about Dante's effect. Bring out a Dante. You don't need to do that. Dingy. On summon, he sends a monster, any card on the field to the graveyard without targeting. This is a very rare form of removal that this deck can excel in, because there's a lot of level 8s that you don't necessarily need to keep on the field. And if any of your cards would be destroyed, you can detach from him instead. He can also attach a machine from the banished on summon, but I don't think we run any. Number 38, Hope Harbinger. Once per turn, he can stop a spell card and make it a material, and also if your opponent attacks, he can force the attack to go to this card. Very useful, rank 8. Because we're running Exceed monsters, Link monster. I was right the first time. Exceed monsters. We're running one Zeus. If you've played in the last 3 years, you know what Zeus does. He sends everything on the field to the graveyard. This is basically just an emergency button if you need to clear the field and then go in for the game. Moving on to the Link monsters now. One Relinquished Anima, Dragon Matrix, and the token that Batteryman Solar summons are level 1s. This card can let you go into other monsters that require non-tokens, or it can also go in the zone and steal your opponent's monster if they're dumb enough to summon it in the anima zone. Get in the zone. One Striker Dragon. This is basically just you can cycle through your baby Chaos Dragons, because both of them go into him, and then you search one, summon another one, and you can go into Link 2 plays. This can add Boot Sector Launch in other decks, but not this one. Hierarch Seal. Arguably the best extra deck monster. Requires 2 dragons, and then during your opponent's turn, you contribute it to, and then on resolution, bounce any card on the field, including yours. And if he's tributed, you get to summon a dragon from your deck, but it has 0 attack and defense. Both of those effects on one card are great. And there are instances where you leave him on the field and tribute your other things, so he can just stick around as a piece of control if you need him to do that. IP Masquerena. Just generically useful as a Link 2. You can leave him on the field, her on the field, and do Link plays on your opponent's turn. Dark the Dark Charmer, Gloomy. Again, another self-explanatory one. We're a dark deck, and we want to Link climb. This helps us take dark monsters from our opponent's graveyard. And worst case scenario, he dies, and we can search for a dark with 1500 or less defense. Nightmare Phoenix and Nightmare Unicorn. This pops spells and traps with a discard. This spins any card on the field. Just generic, good extra deck stuff. Not too much of an explanation needed here. And finally, last but not least, the little Link 4s, Access Code, and Appaloosa. She gets counters for every material used, and she negates monster effects once per chain, and Access Code finishes out the game. He gains a shitload of attack points when you use Nightmare Unicorn for him. You should know what he does. He pops cards too. Last but not least, we're going to go to the side deck plan. And I'm going to break these down by cards you side in going first, and cards you would side in going second, and then cards that are more or less situational. So going first cards, you have 3 Anti-Spell and 1 Quakimeru Drago. For those unfamiliar, Quakimeru Drago says neither player can special summon lights or darks. You would think that interferes with our strategy, but it interferes with Tearlament's strategy even more. And we can always just do normal summon things. Anti-Spell, spells have to be set before they can be activated, so it slows down other spell card strategies. Moving on to the going second portion of the side deck. 2 Swords of Concealing Light and 3 Dark Ruler No More. Dark Ruler shuts your opponent's board off for 1 turn. Swords of Concealing Light, when it resolves, all your opponent's monsters go to face down defense position. And this card remains on your field for 2 standby phases, and no one can change battle positions. Your opponent's side of the field cannot change battle positions. I'm thinking about incorporating a 3rd one of these, but for right now, that 3rd slot is taken up by the 1 Drago. This will be useful more in the future when Kashtira starts making boards and locks you out of zones, because unlike Dark Ruler, the swords sitting them down will result in you having your monster zones back. And these are for more or less first or second, depending on the matchup. 3 Twin Twisters and 3 Triple Tactics Talent. This card has come up a lot where I've considered putting this in the main, but for now I just have it in the side. The 3 modes of Pot of Greed, Change of Heart, or Forceful Sentry. They're all great modes on the card. There's no way to resolve this card and still be bad. Unless you draw 2 and you're still bricking, then skill issue. And Twin Twister, sometimes you don't really need them, but against decks that are just putting up a bunch of floodgates or a bunch of interruption like Labyrinth, opposing anti-spells, or if they have another skill drain that you don't want to be on the field right now, Twin Twister takes care of it. I'm going to go over some cards that are in like the maybe board. Like I'm not 100% sold on them being in the deck or not. One of them is Hieratic Dragon King of Atum. He requires two level 6 dragons, and then you can special summon any dragon by detaching, and he can't attack for that turn. This does help you cycle through your Bystials more, but basically requiring 2 Bystials to get him out in the first place is kind of eh. The Draglubion and Numeron package, this turns any 2 level 8 monsters into 9,000 damage on an open board. So it's an OTK machine, but it requires 2 extra deck slots. So it's also a little bit iffy. The third Nemesis Corridor. You could arguably take out something and put in the third corridor if you want, excuse me, more access to level 4s. I've considered Herpes Feather Duster just as a 4th copy of Twister, more or less. And last but not least, Skullmeister. There's a lot of graveyard stuff going on. This could also be Ghost Bell for stopping opposing Bystials. I like Skullmeister because he's not once per turn. Any questions or comments, please leave them below. I will be happy to answer them for you. Kenpachi Yu-Gi-Oh! Signing out. Have a happy Honda Days.